This now.
We are live, Zoe.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? I hope you're having a wonderful day. Um, Zoe and I were talking about how the energies are kind of weird today. And, I, my client didn't show up at all. I haven't had a text from her or an email. So it's just been kind of a um, weird day.
Mhm.
So we were just catching up, but I am really excited about today because when we did the session and Zoe starts telling me her life story, I was like, no way, like, oh my God, your story is like you could write a book about this.
It's crazy.
So
It's nuts.
it is amazing. So you've done so much with the background that you have, um so I was really excited about sharing the story just because I feel it's a story that is very like gives people
Hope,
in
I guess.
hope.
It's
Yes,
cathartic. It's cathartic
absolutely.
to hear because most people who have history like mine don't come back, right? They usually don't come back from that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's also what we found out like during your QHHT, which was amazing.
Well, it was quantum hypnosis. I don't want to get in trouble because
Oh,
QHHT is in person. You
okay.
cannot do it online. So it was a quantum hypnosis session.
Oh my God, there's legalities.
It's not legality, but let's
I
just say
know.
when they teach you in
Okay, so it was
class.
online, but it was still insane. It was crazy. When we did that, there was just a lot of stuff that was validated. Um, a lot of stuff that because I can't channel for myself. I can't when I try to tap into my own origins and stuff like that, I can't. It's I don't know if it's like I have too many impressions or like I want something to look certain ways. It doesn't work that well. So that was so amazing to be able to tap into that. But yeah, when we were looking into like my whole childhood and background, it's like everything was strategic. Like it was all like a plan, like a game plan. It was all like choices, which is really cool to further propel me out of that victimizer mindset. Cause that's such baloney that it doesn't serve anything to think like, woe is me, like why is all this crap happening to me? um
Right.
yeah, when you get stuck in that, you don't move forward. And it's so easy when you're like in this world that's kind of fallen. This world needs so much help and all this weird stuff can happen to you. um it's easy for that to get you stuck in that feeling of like it's all been to shit and like like there's no coming back from it. So it's cool for me to be able to share this kind of thing with people in case they're going through stuff like that. And that's also we found out, the whole reason why I chose this was to transcend it so I can help other people to transcend the same thing.
And yeah, and so let me tell you, that's a story that repeats over and over with the starseeds.
Yeah.
They go through this trauma, whether it's sexual abuse or whether it's drug use or whether
Mhm.
it's physical abuse at home, emotional
A
abuse.
lot of mental crazy control weird, yeah.
Yeah, it's many. Quite often is for us to then know what to do and how to help others and have compassion for others. It helps us be compassionate for others.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a repeating story. So tell us, Zoe, about your story and your background, and then we'll talk about the session and what we saw and
Okay,
and how
yeah.
and how you were able to integrate all of that.
Okay, so my background started from the very beginning. I guess if you just want to talk about the crap stuff, the stuff that happened.
Well, the stuff that's going to help people
Yeah. So
transcend, right?
yeah, absolutely. So then I have gone through strategic, ritualized sexual abuse from when I was in from like 6th grade to 12th grade, so like sophomore in high school. And it was implemented. It was a technology, it was a technique, you know what I mean? It was a design to split my soul from my body and keep it that way, right? And to the way that I look back on it, so the more that I integrate the session we have, the more I'm like, oh my God, like this makes sense and that makes sense and this makes sense, because my stepfather was my abuser. He was part of my mother's life from childhood. They knew each other when grew up in the same neighborhood. And he was definitely under the manipulation of some sort of Luciferian, satanic, reptilian control, right? And a lot of times we see that when somebody's been in the military or they work for the
Yes.
government. He went to military school. He left early for some reason. The details were never given. When they came back, his sister, when he was like 14, found him attempting suicide by putting his head in the oven and turning the gas on. And nobody knew why. Like nobody could figure out why. Something obviously happened to him there that he was trying to like destroy or eliminate, but it seemed to just have taken over him. My mom had me with another man, and it was almost too perfect how as soon as my mother and my biological father broke up, my stepfather all of a sudden showed back up in her life, right? It was almost like
Too perfect.
yeah. Like my matrilineal line, my grandmother's a starseed, my aunt was a starseed. She passed away from drug addiction. Like that part of my life, it goes back to like a lot of Native American roots if you want to look at the earthly avatar thing. But it's pretty obvious that my grandmother was not from here because she was just such a different kind of groundbreaking being for being an African American woman growing up in the 60s. She just did everything she wasn't supposed to. Like she was like a business owner, she was marrying white men, she was having children with multiracial people, she was doing everything that like broke outside the box. She was like a single woman, didn't really care about getting married, loved tarot cards, all sorts of like interesting things that didn't happen back then. But when I look at it, I'm like, okay, now I see where it's all coming from, you know. But it seems like these kind of people get tracked. And that's what you and I were talking about. Like starseeds are being targeted, starseeds are being tracked and monitored, and they'll throw people in like really handsome or beautiful or rich or some sort of seducing implement that will bind you to these people, and they'll do everything to throw you off your mission. So for me, it happened to be my stepfather. And the way, like, so I was just thinking about this morning too. So my mom, oh God, this goes even deeper. My mom worked for Fox News her whole life, 27 years. And, you know, that's like the pit of hell. Like, like all of Fox News, when all of a sudden her schedule changed to she had to be there at 3:00 in the morning. And so my stepfather started having to take me to school. Right. And so that's always when the abuse happened. There was never a time when we were alone before that, where all of a sudden that schedule change happened. So, and it was so strategic. It was like a technique almost. And when I would wake up and I would feel myself kind of float up to the ceiling, and then I wouldn't be back in my body until I was at school. Right? Like, and I would wake up, like, I would come back to myself. And it was like I was coming through stars. I can see it now. I can only see when I was coming back, but it was like a pathway in space through stars. And they're always in the same pattern. It was obviously some sort of constellation. It was like a direct pathway. I felt like I was just daydreaming, like looking at stars, and all of a sudden I'd like be back. I'd be in the car and like outside of my school. Right. So I was like, my guides were probably like sucking my consciousness out of my body. Like whenever the abuse was happening, they're like, you're gone. Because I don't really remember a lot of my childhood. I know a lot of the abuse is held in my physical body. I know it happened, but I don't have that like integrated pain, I think, that a lot of people go through because I wasn't really there.
Right.
And I think that was some people call it what's it?
Disassociative
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
something.
disassociation. But mine feels more like it was like, come on, like let's go, and then okay, you can go to school because I was always going through that same pathway. I felt like I was just daydreaming, sitting in the car. Why am I always thinking about the same stars? And then I'm back in front of school, right? And now that I'm piecing things together, I was traveling. My soul was traveling back and forth, obviously, and that's probably why I don't I don't remember much of what.
Wow. Yeah, that's good that you had that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think there was
And
a reason. I mean, I did have a lot of dark night of the soul because of that. I did have a lot of, I don't know, it's hard for me to say that the drug use was congruent with the sexual abuse. Of course that makes sense. To
but
say
there's also, in addition to sexual abuse, which I think might even be worse, there was emotional
a crazy
abuse.
emotional abuse. Yeah,
Yes, I mean, because that can squash you down to feel like you're nothing.
right.
Yeah,
Crazy,
and
like
that's what he was doing.
all sorts of separation from my family, from my mother, creating kind of a character about me to my mom about like why I was lying, why I was misbehaving, that she totally bought into. And we're still working on her, like figuring out, like even her getting information not from me, from people around her about his character now that he's passed. She's still having a hard time digesting the fact that she didn't see that she was married to a sadist, like she was married to a complete monster. It's hard. I think it's hard even like just on a maternal level to be like, how did I miss that? But like,
Hmm.
what we talked about, she on some level she saw it because she was always asking me. She was
Yes.
constantly asking me over and over again, like, is he abusing you? Is he touching you? Is something going on? And I would always say, no, 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 like to the point where I was getting upset about her asking me so much. But so the emotional abuse was crazy. The separation from my, the isolating, it was so strategic. When I look
Yeah.
at it now, it was so strategic. It was
Yes.
like this was just orders, like he was just following orders, it seemed.
Exactly.
And the way he passed was really crazy because he would start to get these abscesses on his head. And we were just talking about this thing on Ascension Glossary called soul scalping, where like somebody's, I don't know
Yes.
how it works,
Yeah,
but
they pulled the soul out of the body.
right, and
Absolutely.
replace it with something
Yes.
else. So he would always get these abscesses on his head that had to get drained, and they would come back, and they would get drained and come back, and get drained and come back. And when he was like 63, something really, really young, he worked for the government. He worked for Social Security, of course. and then, and as soon as he retired, it was like his contract was up. This was like the smartest, most educated, like most smug, arrogant, well dressed, loved his sports cars, loved his art collection, loved his big house, right? Like very well spoken person in the world. But literally, as soon as he left his job, he started to lose his mind. And it was like whatever was controlling him was leaving, because he stopped being able to form sentences. He stopped being able to recognize us. He at first he got diagnosed after diagnosis of what was happening. Everybody thought dementia, right? Everybody thought it's some sort of like it's really early for dementia and he's so healthy and this doesn't usually happen, right? But they diagnosed him at first with this thing called Capgras syndrome, which is where you start to think, it's such a specific syndrome, but it's where you start to think that the government has made a duplicate of your life. And
But that's real. It's
right.
not a syndrome. They have clones of people all the
Right,
time.
but like your house. So he thought at first, in the beginning, he would think he was in his home, but like something was off that would make him like suspicious of, or like he would think that it was my mom, or he would think it was me, but he'd be like, you guys are somebody else, and it was scary to be around him like that when he was like not, he was in between worlds almost. He kept saying he was totally slipping in between dimensions. He kept saying people were like having business meetings in the basement trying to sell the house, and it was like nobody there. Like it was like to was. There was nobody there. He was saying there was people walking around upstairs that were driving him crazy. He was becoming very fearful and very paranoid, and just slowly losing it. So it got to the point where he couldn't drive anymore. He was like, he stopped being able to dress himself. He stopped being able to make sense in sentences. We had to put like locks on the inside of the house because he would just leave and disappear and like walk outside in the winter with like one cowboy boot on. Crazy stuff. Like he was like slowly melting away. It really seemed like, and it's so interesting to look at it from this perspective now of like he had whatever entity was controlling him was gone, and it got to the point where he was like had to have a nurse around him, and they all kept quitting because he was attacking them. He became very violent. I think we went through like 5 home aides that always end up calling the police, locking themselves in a room and calling the police because he was beating the crap out of them. Like it was really, 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 really bad. And it went very quick. It went from 0 to 60 to from like 63 to 65. He's in a hospital. He completely forgot how to breathe. He forgot how to open his eyes. He forgot how to swallow food. Like his mind just wasn't doing anything anymore. And then he eventually stopped breathing. Wow. Because he like, and so it feels like whatever was controlling him, when it left quickly, and it left him with like very little capacity of how to operate. There was no soul to operate the body anymore, right? Yeah. So he always collected African art, an avid collector of African art. Everything he did, he was obsessive about, but the house was full of African art, and there's these particular statues that were called fetish dolls that he really liked. They were like these little, they looked like a little wooden person, and they would have a hollowed out belly, and stuff would be put in the belly. I don't know what. And then like a mirror would be put over it, and mirrors in the eyes. And then the body would be full of nails, hammered nails outside of all of it. And it seemed to me like a binding spell.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Right. There was one like particular one that he would hang these tiny little mini locks on top of the nails, right? And I would always catch him like talking to it and weird stuff, just like weird stuff. So after he passed, that's when I started to kind of come undone. And I was taking a Lyft one day, and there was a Nigerian Lyft driver. I was asking him where his accent was from. He was telling me he was from Africa. I was telling him, like, oh, my house is full of African art. And I started talking about those statues, and he got so quiet. He was like, oh, right? And I was like, what are they? And I was like, what are they? Please tell me what they are, because they always make me uncomfortable. He was like, you should burn that. Whatever that is, you should burn that. And I was like, really? And then he was like, no. He took it back. He was like, no, don't burn it. Get a priest. I was like, I'm not going to call a priest in my house, but the burning stuck in my head. So after he passed on Christmas, I got like my mom's little like mini grill, and I took it outside and burned it. And and that's literally when I lost it. Remember, we talked about that? All of this site, all of the gifts that I have just came flooding back. I don't know if that thing was to bind me or what, but I have, all of a sudden I started to see energy everywhere. I started to see things. I thought it was a curse. I thought it was like a spiritual. I was like trying to rub tea tree oil all over the house. I was like throwing salt all over the house, clearing like holy water, anything, because I kept seeing these things following me, moving over my children. I would see things going in and out of the walls. I was seeing things going in and out of the floors, and like the wood was moving. Everything was moving. The whole world started moving, and I thought I had lost my mind, and I was trying to fix it. But when I finally got to a teacher who recognized what was happening, it was just energy, right? It was just energy. I was seeing auras. I was seeing auric fields. I was seeing people's guides. I was seeing people's angels. I was seeing people's energy moving around them. But without that guidance, I thought I was losing my mind, right? And my family thought I was losing my mind. That's why a lot of my students that work with me, they're like, I want to be clairvoyant. I'm like, let's baby step it, right? Let's take our time, because when you rip the veil off, it's terrifying. You don't get to just pick the good stuff. You don't just get to see pretty fairies and stuff. You see everything, and this world is full of everything. There are actual reptilians, there are actual things that look like demons, there are actual angels, there's actual like light beings and beautiful things, light codes coming out of the sky. There's heavenly things, but there's also that other part of the world too. So I think that's why a lot of, especially starseeds, they know that they should be able to see, and it drives them crazy that they can't, and they're
Mm-hmm.
I want to see it. I want to see. I want to see. And their higher selves totally protecting them. Because if you have a mission to serve on this planet, they don't have time for you to be locked up in an insane asylum, right? Because you're like, there's stuff crawling on my kids. Like that's really what it looks like. It's well, for me particularly, everybody's gifts affects them differently.
Yeah, isn't that what the story you told me, that you're like something's on somebody's forehead or something? Was that you?
Probably. I don't know. I'm always like asking, do you see that too? I always have to ask.
No, I don't. It's just that a client, it might have been you or someone else, they said when they started seeing, they're like, what's wrong with you? What's that on your forehead?
I know. I was cleaning my kids' hair. I was seeing stuff in their hair all the time. And like, I don't know. I seemed like a crazy person. My mom would buy like these bulk bags of salt and like go to work and come back and they'd all be gone. And she'd be like, what the hell is happening to the salt? Like, what's going on? And as soon as she was left, I was like, I have to like get to work and clear this up before anybody noticed. When I finally like couldn't take it anymore, I was seeing beings coming out of the carpet. I was seeing beings coming out of the couch. I like attacked my mom's couch. She was like, I can't handle this. I don't know what's going on with her. And I ended up being institutionalized for like 2 days because they had to sedate me because I didn't know. I didn't have anybody to tell me what was happening or what I
And
was
and
seeing.
and Zoe, I want to mention that, just so people know, you're not the first story that this has happened to. And my clients, I would tell you, like maybe 8% of them have told me this too. You are not alone.
Good. And that's why I'm happy to tell people this story, because a lot of times we recognize early that nobody else is seeing the way that we do, and you'll just keep it to yourself. And you're like living in this silent terror of the world because nobody's explaining, there's nobody to relate to. And sometimes it builds and builds and builds until you end up in a mental home, or not a home, like the mental part of a hospital, where they're just like give you a needle and like, will you lay down and be quiet? I don't know what's going on. And those places are total traps. When I was in there, I was like, this is how people get stuck in these places, because they treat you like an idiot, right? And they wait for you to freak out because they're treating you like an idiot, and then they sedate you, and then you go back to sleep, and then you wake up and you're like, I want to speak to my family, and they're like, you need to calm down, right? And they're like, right? And it keeps going. But I'm so glad for my guides. I know they totally got me through that, because I remember after like 48 hours, the doctor came to talk to me, and she was like, are you still seeing things on people's faces? And I was like, no, it's gone. I was just having a rough day. But I was
Even though she had a spot right here in the
like,
middle.
going everywhere all over her. She was like, okay. I was like, my dad just passed away. It's been hard. Like, I just really want to go home. And I called my mom. I was like, I called my mom when I was like released, and I was like, they're sending me home. And she was like, they are. She was like, are you sure you want to go there? You seem very scared of there. It's like, it's better than here. It's better than this place. But then, okay, I've always suppressed feelings with substances. I've always, like, whether there's weed, marijuana, or whether it's alcohol, like, I've always overindulged. But after that, it went like just full blown crazy, like addiction, where I never really liked opiates. They would always kind of make me sick.
Yeah, me too.
It always kind of made me nauseous. And something happened. I was around some friends that always had them. And something happened. I had like something pissed me off. And I remember just like, I'm just going to take one of these Percocets. And something that day made it work the way that like people who get
It's
addicted.
supposed to.
Yeah, because I remember all of a sudden I felt like honey was like dripping all over my body, and like my hands got really warm, and I was like really happy, and I was like, oh, I like this, you know, like this is really cool. So then it just like went on and on and on from there, because when I was feeling that euphoria, I also wasn't seeing the stuff. I wasn't seeing all the constant movement. It like went back to the way things used to be. So that quickly escalated from Percocet, because Percocet is very expensive on the street, you know, and like you build a tolerance to it, your body starts to need it. I have a feeling that it's also completely draconian. It's just
Oh,
like a trap. It's a total trap. And then like you can't afford it anymore. So, but there is heroin that you can totally afford. Heroin, it does the same thing and it's much cheaper. But with heroin, for some reason, you will stop breathing. Right? You can
well,
you
that's a little problem, you
yeah,
know?
that's a little problem. With Percocet, you might like pass out, but with heroin, you'll just OD. So if you do too much, so I never. It was just a not yet for me. I never got to the point where I was using needles. I was always snorting it, but I was like, I went to balls to the wall with that, right? And I have no idea why. I think, I think what stopped it, what made me stop was Charlie. Charlie, when I got pregnant with Charlie, I told you I didn't even know. I had my period throughout my
Yeah,
pregnancy.
for 6 months, right?
6 months, I didn't show. People all of a sudden started to notice the belly before I really even noticed the belly. And then when I was getting a urinalysis, the doctor told me that I was pregnant. I was like, what? Right? Like I had no idea, because I was gone. I was completely lost. I was like, a hungry ghost at that point. And, so after I got pregnant with Charlie, I was completely still using. I didn't care, you know. I was like, I was completely addicted. I was
Right.
using anything that I could find, and drinking, smoking cigarettes, completely trying to destroy myself. And the fact that
But and that's what you knew, right? You because that's something I want people to see the pattern. When you grow up with somebody trying to destroy you,
Mhm,
all you know is I
to
need
keep
to
going,
destroy myself.
right? How do I
So
do it?
you continue the pattern of whatever it is that happened to you in your childhood.
Exactly. And it was like, you want food? I wouldn't it was like, why do people eat so much? I remember that thought in the midst of my addiction, because like my family would be like, we're going out to dinner, or we're going to this, and I'd be like, why do people care so much about food? Like, why is that like why is that a priority? Because like my mind was completely just about like how to feel better, and how to maintain and maintain. But at the same time, like slowly killing yourself. And I knew
Yeah.
what I was doing, you know?
Yeah.
So after, it's completely when we found out in the sessions, completely thanks to my guys, that Charlie came out of that unscathed, right? Like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with him.
Totally normal.
There's nothing wrong with him. So it's like he I know that kid came here to save me and to wake me up, right? And to tell me like, come on lady, like we have stuff to do. Because when he was around me, that's when all of a sudden I went through heroin withdrawal with a newborn, and I didn't feel anything, you know, like I
That's
didn't.
just
It's bizarre, right?
yeah.
It's like that doesn't happen. I didn't get sick. I didn't get like the I have to like lay down for 3 days and throw up and all that stuff. That didn't happen. And then my life just started getting progressively better. I started seeing energy the way that I saw, but I started finding teachers. All of a sudden, teachers started coming to me, like spiritual teachers that were like explaining that they saw the same things, and or they knew of people who saw the same things, and it wasn't what I thought it was. And I started going to yoga. And then I started meeting my yoga teacher and all this stuff. So it's all Charlie's fault that I'm here. This is all completely up to him. But that's also that was all good. So I was like sober for a while, things were getting better. and I still wasn't really taking sobriety very seriously. I was like, I knew life was like a little bit better without drugs, but I think I was still like drinking beer and wine or something like that when I had that dream of when I told you the word Pleiadian was like written in my brain. And I never remember my dreams really, but I woke up from that dream and I felt like there's this tall, blue, militant looking man, very big, and he was talking to me. I don't know what he was saying, but he was very stern and like upset. And I was getting like a little bit like fussed at. Like I remember like his finger and like this kind of like, and then I woke up and I had the word like Pleiadian in my head, and I was like, "What's that?" So I know, like, my guys were like, "Come on, like, come on, what are you doing? Like, we have stuff to do. You're getting old. We can't keep dicking around."
Yeah, I mean, do you want us to land on your home? What do you want?
Great. So that's when I started the Etsy shop, and like that's when like everything. Um, I started the Etsy shop 3 months before I even got a sale. I completely forgot. I think I told you that too. I forgot that I even made it because it was all just like guidance. But as soon as I did, things just like I met my actual guru, who is a clairvoyant, clairsentient like me. She started teaching me everything that helped me get my gifts under my control, to the point where I was also like going down the rabbit hole of light language on my own on YouTube. I was like watching every light language activation I could find, just sucking in all this information about galactics that I never had been exposed to. And it just felt like coming home. It felt like this is what I've been waiting for. Like, where has this been? I didn't even know this has been on the internet. Like, it's just been like there waiting. So when I finally started speaking the light language for myself, I know that's when I completely healed myself, because I haven't even really thought about stuff. I know I was like just activating myself and healing myself, and my guides were showing me that I went through all that to show other people how to do the same thing. I know there's a lot of things that's awesome about the recovery and all the recovery process that we have for people who are suffering from addiction now. But there's so much relapse. And it feels like when I was going to AA and NA and stuff like that, it felt like people were like, like struck, like they're saying like one day at a time, like they're just like rocking through it. They did not really want to stop drinking. They call it white knuckling. It's literally a word where you're just like holding on for dear life because that thing in your head is like, go get a drink, go get a drink, go get a drink, right? And they're just like trying to take it one step at a time. And that is barely existing to me. That's not the way that you're supposed. You can't get anything done. The only thing that you can do is like hold on to like, I'm supposed to be sober, and that takes like all the grit that you can muster. So I don't know. I'm just wanting to release this kind of healing modality to the world. I want to make it more available to people like me who didn't even know that light language was a thing. Like it's still like I mean, I think that this kind of oppression is what these beings have created around this earth, the controlled chaos of like,
and the attack on people like you, right?
Yeah, and it's specifically, I think Starseeds, you hear it in the stories that all Starseeds. I started to hear it as I started working with Starseeds. It's like, you guys all go through hell. We all go through hell, and is that like karma? No. Is that no, it's an attack. It's a strategic attack. Like you're being tagged throughout incarnations and effed with, so that you don't change this matrix like you came here to do. It's total BS.
Yeah. But again, they're always here for a reason. They're always here for our growth. Like duality and all of that is here for our growth.
It always works. That's what I like was talking to my sister about. I was like, why do they destroy anything? Because if you in destroying something in this dualistic world, it's also going to create something. It has to, because that's where this polarity planet works. So if you try to destroy humanity, you're creating something better. So I don't know. Are they working against us, or are they working for us? I don't know.
Well, the thing is you got to have the bad guys.
You have to,
They have to exist.
right. So then
It's
I
part
kind
of the growth process.
of am able to accept that neutral mentality of like, thank you. You know, when
Hmm.
I'm not mad at you, I like that completely. That's why that victimizer technology is there, because if you feel like, oh, you hurt me, you did this to me and I didn't deserve that, and you get stuck in that, and you can't ascend to that neutral perspective of like, oh, I chose these challenges
Yep.
that I could beat them. You didn't choose these challenges so that you could be broken. Your higher self chose the challenges in your life to beat them, like, because it knew
Yep.
that you could, and in turn making you stronger. Sometimes I am like, higher self, how strong am I supposed to be? Like, this is enough. I feel like I am strong enough. No more. I think I can learn through blessings from now on. I don't need to learn through the challenges. Just a suggestion.
But that's the thing. You don't learn. I notice I don't, when I'm happy, I don't learn anything.
It's so true. Isn't it so stupid? It's so stupid. You get so comfortable. You start taking things for granted. You have no gratitude for anything. But as soon as something's taken away from you for a little bit, then you're like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, like, I wish that we could like adjust our minds so we could learn differently.
Hmm.
And then the lessons would stick, you know? I,
Yeah.
I wish we could learn. Even Buddha said, like, suffering is part of this life. Like, life is suffering. So start to like appreciate your suffering. And then it's not suffering anymore. It's hard though. How do you
It
stay?
is. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to, especially for people that have been sexually or physically abused. They really do have a hard time with forgiveness.
Yeah,
And the thing is, sometimes this is happening to them by their contract, their life contract, specifically to learn to forgive,
right.
you
Right.
know?
And it's so, because it fragments you. There's so that violation, that feeling of I have no control over what's happening to me. It's not irreversible. So that's why I also wanted to share this. Like, it can totally be healed. One of my favorite quotes by my teacher is the stuff that we do, the practices that we use, the healing that we use is not the Freudian typical psychology of the Western culture, which is like, well, let's just talk about it for the rest of your life, you know?
Yeah.
That doesn't work. I'm so sorry to all my counselors and my psychiatrists and my psychologist friends out there, but it's helpful. It always lightens a burden when you can share it with somebody. But does it heal them? No. No,
Mm-mm.
because you're always upping their medication. They're always like secretly having something else, something else, something else, something, another existential crisis. But so the practices that my teacher says he uses, like, this is his metaphor. When you walk into the kitchen and you smell something, you're like, that stinks. And it's the garbage. There's like something rotting in the garbage. He's like, do you open the bag of garbage and start looking through it to find what's rotting? He's like, that's his. Not to say we're bags of garbage, but that's his metaphor. He's like, you're not like, what is that stinking thing inside of me? Like, I got to get to the root of it. No, he's like, you just take it out. You just take the trash out. So that's what a lot of energy work, sound frequency can move that stuff out of your aura. So
Yep.
it's not like you have to like deal with the rot. You can just
Yes.
remove it. So I
Yep.
think that, like, that's why all of these advanced beings all use sound and vibration and frequency to heal and to adjust and to download and to upgrade. Not just like, I don't know, Freud was on coke. Freud was on so much cocaine. That whole system is just like,
Yeah. Well, it's meant to keep you coming back, right? It's meant to not heal.
yeah, there's
It's
no
just
money.
you have
There's
a buddy. You have a buddy and a friend that you can talk to for an hour every week, and that's it.
Yeah. And then you feel a little bit better. You feel a little lighter. Right. And then what's interesting is there's so many psychiatrists that work with me, and they are suffering. The psychiatrists are suffering because a lot of them are empaths. and they're
Yep.
like transmuting this stuff all day that doesn't
Yep.
even belong to them. So
Mhm.
it's not really, it's like making it kind of a nasty cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. But that's what me and you are here to fix.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so tell me about um the session. I know that you were like, I have to process this. I gotta keep, I gotta
I
process.
hate
So
to sleep.
first I
I
want
hate to
people
sleep.
I want you to tell them what you saw,
Okay,
because it was pretty cool to see yourself
it
that
was.
way.
So I saw myself as an avian hybrid. I forget the name. I lost it. A lot of the stuff
Syrian.
I lost.
I thought it was avian Syrian
Avian,
hybrid
okay, avian Syrian hybrid. No,
with
I was
these
saying we had a name.
gigantic wings.
We found a name that we called ourselves, but I need to go back and listen to the recording because literally as soon as I came back, like I started to lose everything on the visuals that I had. I couldn't keep them. But I was winged. I was very, very pale skinned. I was on a humongous ship that was like the size of a state. Well, I flew to the ship. I started off like over water. I remember that. It was so cool to see myself in that aspect and to feel the contrast of these bodies, because when I came back into this body, it was very awkward. It was very awkward for me to be here and there. It makes me totally get why some of those 12th dimensional beings don't like to have a form, because it's heavy and it's slow and it's dense and it's smelly. It's and it's like it's not it's not as easy as having a light body. But we saw us teaching children. I remember the children. I remember the ship. I remember the feeling of family. I remember like the guide. There was an elder that was like putting us to sleep so that we could go on missions. There was like there's so much that I was able to tap into just through that session, and processing it has been slow. It's been a very slow integration for me of revealing. That's how a lot of things are with me, though. Sometimes, like, I just receive transmissions and kind of let it process as it does, right? Like, I haven't had a moment literally to sit down and watch it again to like retain all the information that we pulled through. But like that, I didn't know that that could happen. I didn't know that you could tap into so much detail.
Oh
Visual.
yeah, 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 absolutely. That's why, you know, our services are so complementary, because you tell them what they are, but when they come to me, they see themselves
Yeah.
as they are.
And
They
their
see
family,
themselves as that.
right? And their
Yeah.
children may not even see it. You feel it. You feel it. So I know you were saying, I don't know, maybe you didn't say that, but there's like a resistance to coming back. Sometimes
Mhm.
when does that happen often? Like you feel reluctant to even want to be here after tapping into one of your ascended perspectives, like one of your higher selves. It's like, oh crap, I don't want to do this again. Like I didn't want to come back. And I remember afterwards I had like a session. I don't know what I was thinking. I had like a session afterwards and I was like trying to get my head together. I like drank coffee. The next day though, I think I slept until 10:30, and that's nuts for me. I always wake up at 5. I always wake
Oh,
up at 5 a.m. And I woke up and I looked at the clock and I was like, what? Like it was crazy because it had to be. And I asked several people that have done the sessions with you, and they're like, yeah, I had to sleep a lot afterwards too. It's like a lot of spiritual work. It's insane.
yeah,
And you get to do that all day.
yeah, yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah, yeah.
It's so amazing. But we did, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I'm spacing out now on some of the things that we were able to tap into while I was there. I remember,
Yeah, well, so if you listen to the recording, that's why I tell people to listen to the recording, because when they do, they will see not only what they saw, but they'll see more detail.
okay. Okay. I think I do have a resistance to listening to it because I'm like, no, like that was
Yeah,
like a little pocket of heaven, right?
yeah.
And like
And
if
you
I
don't want to
yeah.
yeah,
I keep looking at the email and I'm like, no. No, I don't want to. Because then it's gonna make this place seem like in contrast, like, oh. man, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to, we don't grow up with the ability to just know about reincarnation. That's new for Americans. Like,
Hmm.
like there's other cultures that like are just born, their kids know that they were other things. It was cool to tap into those beings that we were with because it seemed like the kids were born knowing. I
Yeah.
think I've heard Andrew Collier. Is that how you say his name?
Alex.
Alex.
Alex Collier.
Alex Collier, he has said the same thing about Andromedans. They're born knowing their past lives. And that's so interesting to be able to hold that, because we're born with no memory and we have to figure it out. Because I don't know, we like challenges. I don't know why we do this. But like the Andromedans are born knowing who they were in their last life. So there's no mystery. There's no figuring out. There's no puzzling it together. Like, what am I doing here? I mean, it's pretty simple to figure out what you're doing. If you want to figure out what you did in your last life, you just look at this life because it's probably the same thing. It's all like these like diluted echoes of the same thing or whatever you're struggling with, it could be clues to some sort of karmic debt and stuff like that. But to be able to just know, like, I don't know if I was born like knowing in my last life, I was like a Hawaiian farmer, right? Right. And I had like a family and I might have been like kind of a dick. And that's probably why I'm like, feeling this now. I don't know. It would make life so different. It would make life so, you would behave so different. You wouldn't want to accumulate any karma. Like the way the Buddhist monks, they like try to live life karma-less,
Yeah.
like doing nothing that gets karmic debt. So in their next life, that's probably when you get to those points where you can choose what you want to do. You can choose. There's no like, oh, well, you have to pay for what you did. That when you live a karmaless life, then you're like, in my next life, then it's like whatever I want.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't, do you know Cryon? Have you heard of Cryon?
Mm-mm.
So Cryon is the magnetic grid keeper.
Okay.
And he's channeled by a guy named Lee Carroll. Anyway, Cryon a while back, maybe 6 years ago or so, had said that karma had been done away with because we were like in a hamster wheel. We weren't able to get out of this constant creation of karma. So it was kind of like stopped. No more karma.
I felt that with Starseeds. They're like burning through generational karma for their families too.
Yeah.
Some of the Starseeds that we've worked with that are choosing bloodlines to purge them. Like they will come into like this lower frequency, kind of stuck in rebirth. They'll like, if I get born just because of their vibration, just because of their frequency, if I come through into this family, then they can break that for them. So
Yes.
like, we should be more thankful. We should be more thankful to our starseeds because they're really paying for a lot of things and they suffer. Starseeds are, I don't know. I don't think it's happening anymore. I've been kind of blown away by
They're not the kids with the new Starseeds. They're being born to people like us.
Starseeds, right? And it's
So they're not getting any trauma. They're not being damaged.
You see how advanced they are so quickly because of that. Because there's somebody encouraging their gifts instead of like telling them to go to church or like you need an exorcism or to be quiet, don't talk about that. All the stuff that we kind of had to like hammer through. They're being born into families that are like, oh yeah, I do that too. Like I was talking to a lady whose mom was a shaman. It's like mind blowing to think like your mom knows she's a shaman, and like helps you to do whatever, I mean, I think that's so cool. It just gives me a lot of hope.
No, absolutely. They're our future. They're here with a lot more knowledge so that they are the teachers now.
Yeah, I told you, I'm just following Charlie's lead. He tells me what he wants. I don't know. I don't know. I'm like, okay, do you want to go to school? No, okay, fine. You don't have to. What do you want to do? I know those Starseed schools are coming. I can't wait because I feel like there's so many children now. I'm working, like the clients that I'm working with, people are sending their kids to me, like younger and younger, 14, 16, 12-year-old kids that are like, I see spaceships when I'm in band camp. There's like when I'm outside marching, there's like spaceships and I don't know who to talk to about this, right? And if you told your mom that in the past, you would be like, cuckoo. You couldn't share that, but now you have a mom that you can share this kind of information with, and they don't try to medicate you, but they try to connect you with somebody who also sees the same way. I'm like, I just give all the praise to the Starseed mamas. They're doing it. They're amazing. It makes me like, what are their kids gonna be like? And then their kids gonna be like, it's like it keeps bringing me back to that quote, like, we are the people that we're waiting for. What if we are the aliens?
Yeah, especially the new ones. I mean, I know I'm a Pleiadian hybrid, but the ones that are coming in, I feel like they're even more hybrid than me, if that makes sense.
More genetic memory, more completely like light sensitive. They can't handle fluorescent lights. They can't handle certain smells. They don't like, like they're just, it's like you were literally not, our souls are completely in a human avatar that we're trying to fix. And I feel like they're pulling in wherever they came from, like the body even. So that's so cool.
That's exciting.
It is exciting. It is exciting. But like, so if there's anybody who knows somebody that is suffering from addiction or is suffering from addiction or healing sexual trauma, sexual abuse, any kind of abuse, I would be so happy to work with them. I know, like, it can be scary to think about. That was one thing I was also hesitant about doing the session with you, because I was like, I have a lot of like stuff that I don't, I don't like, if I go under, I don't want to be like thrown into that and like can't get back out of it or whatever. But it wasn't like that at all. Your higher self is completely protective of you. So if anybody's like ever worried about going under because they have trauma, don't worry about that, especially with Elisa. But if there's anything that you want to work with healing energetically and removing from your aura, I would be completely happy if you reach out through email or anything like that, or book a session with me. That's like one of my passions.
Yeah. And Zoe's website is activationsbyzoe.com. So that's where you can find her too.
Or you can just email me at zoe@activationsbyzoe.com to talk about anything. Yeah, whatever works. Because I think, remember when we were in session, all of the things, we were like, why did we choose so much chaos to like live through? And the word that came through was liberation. And I feel like it was just to figure it out, like to full submersion, like just throw yourself in all of the things that are oppressing humans, all the abuse, all the drug addiction, all the poverty, all the anything, racism, all that stuff. Just go for it and then figure out how to transcend it and then show everybody how you did it. Right. Like, so like
exactly. That's exactly what we're doing. That's
right.
Absolutely.
Right. Because this stuff it's such, when you go down the rabbit hole with what the illusion of this world is, it's like, it's deep and it can be infuriating to realize that this has been done to people and they don't even know it, right? Because we get so angry at addicts. We're like, you're an asshole, you don't take care of your family, and like you only care about drugs and you don't care about anything, and you're stealing and lying and blah 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 blah. And to think like, no, this drug wouldn't even be here if it wasn't from like outside forces putting it here to oppress people on purpose. It's not like this is just a weak person. This is not just an asshole. Like, this is somebody who is caught in a trap, right? And is just like cycling through it and can't figure out how to get out.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yep. Let's see. There's a question for you here. Is booking a session the same as order a customer activation?
Oh, no. So the sessions are live. They're via Zoom. there's a lot more work that I can do with your energy in front of me. With it's not, I wouldn't call it Reiki, but it is energetic healing that we do. So the custom activations, I would use your aura that I see in your face to channel an activation to whatever end you asked for. And a lot of people ask for breaking addiction or healing karmic cycles, and there's been wonderful results with that. But I would say the only difference would be the custom activations you can use to meditate with every day whenever you want, and the sessions are live and in person.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thank you. All right. What else? What else didn't we talk about?
That's it. I was trying to I'm going to have to find a quiet moment to listen to the recording. I think I want to do it because I don't know. Have you noticed that with other clients that they might be resistant to listening to it again?
Yeah,
Like,
some don't even download the file.
really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can see that through WeTransfer because it keeps expiring.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sure mine is about to expire. I don't know what that resistance is. It's like that was such a beautiful part of my life, and I think as a starseed, you're always wanting to go back. You're always like, this is hard work. This is hard. Like we came to like this really effed up place, this like cry for help. And I would love to go back to like my lovely home where like we don't have to deal with things like rape and addiction.
So what happens is when we're in a happy place, after you're in that happy place for hundreds of years, you're like, this is boring.
That's what I got too, especially with a lot of angelics. Like when I was asking, why do you guys even come here? Yeah. You guys are in paradise. You're in utopia. Why would you come here? And they're like, because you take things for granted.
Yep.
When you're here, when this is all that is, when this is absolute, you start being like, well, what's happening Tuesday? More love. What's happening Wednesday? More love and bliss. What's happening Thursday? More love and bliss. You need some, unfortunately, the way the mind is created, contrast and stimuli like that is part of the experience. Mm-hmm. It's part of the experience. It has to be like the complete picture. Then you do, and after a while you're like, okay, that's enough experience.
You take a 1,000-year break, a 1,000-year vacation before I come back to this
like, that is enough of that. Earth is hard, man. Earth is not easy. And it makes me think of like, are there timelines of Earth that are harder than this? There has to be.
Oh yeah, big time.
There are lower timelines, right? That are they still existent? Have they been stamped out? Do we know?
I have no idea. I don't know, because I thought the timelines are based on your vibration, and if you choose not to ascend, then you go down the crappy Earth. You stay in the 3D Earth. You don't get to ascend. So, I don't know.
I know, but I'm just wondering, like, if they all are coexisting at the same time. I'm sure if anybody wanted to,
I think so.
Them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, because you're switching from one to the other. As your vibration is good, then you're in the good one. But then if your vibration drops, then you're in the crappy one.
Right.
You're always shifting between these realities.
Yeah. Every decision you make will drop you down. Yeah. And I totally. Yep. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard. Yeah. But we're doing
it. There's a question here. Let's see. How far behind is Zoe? I placed an order on 12/28.
December 28th.
And
really? You know what? Check your what's her name? Casey
Hilton.
I wonder what that first name is. So what has been happening a lot is it's going to people's spam and junk folders.
Your reply?
Yeah, the activation sometimes is in the junk folder. If you look in your junk folder and it's not there, email me and I'll resend it, because we have been getting that. People will write me 3 months later, like, is it ready yet? I'm like, I sent that to you months ago, and they're just not getting it. I think you know what we deal with.
Yeah.
Right. So Miss Hilton, if you look in your junk spam folder and it's not there, email me and I will figure out what happened to it. Because I'm way past the ones that came in December.
Yeah. So where are you now? Like, are you a week
We
behind?
had a
Not
little
be. I don't
hiccup.
want to say behind, but like it's.
I am. I'm struggling. I had an assistant, but I didn't hire the assistant. I got this close. I got this close to the life raft, and then I like aborted ship. Yeah. So with travel,
Katrina Hilton.
Katrina. Okay, I'll check. And you check on your end, and then just email me if anybody else is watching and you're waiting for your activation. Do the same thing.
Yes.
Because we get a lot of resistance on this polarity planet. There's somebody that I think we went through like 3 different emails trying to get her activation to her, and I was sending it and nothing would show up on her end. I didn't be like, give me another one.
Yeah, so that's the forces that are holding us back, right? That they don't want us to move on to the next step in our evolution.
Right. And I'm sitting in front of the computer talking to her on Etsy on my phone, right? And I'm like, I'm sending it, or is it there? And she's like, nothing. And then I'm like, okay, give me another email. It ended up having to go to her husband's email for her to get it. So that was yeah. People don't want you to wake up.
Yeah. So wow. The next question is if you work with others to develop their clair skills.
Absolutely. That is what we completely do. We have an entire school for people who are wanting to amplify their psychic abilities, their psychic gifts, tap into their sensitivities to subtle energies. We work individually. It's easier. I'm developing a curriculum where we can do it as groups, or maybe something pre-recorded that you can work with on your own if you can't do one-on-one, because it's starting to get to be a lot of people. But it's we do group practices, try to get it at least twice a month, and working together individually with me, one-on-one or bi-weekly. Because developing your clairs, developing telepathy, any kind of sensitivity to these things is just like a physical muscle. You have to work it. You have to do things to work it every day. Activations are great for opening up these abilities to it, but cultivating it, mastering it, getting under your conscious control, that needs discipline and development and practice. Just practice. So I'm absolutely doing that. That's available on the website.
What's it called?
It's called the Psionic School of Celestial Sciences. It's a mouthful.
Wow.
that was total guidance too. I didn't pick that. That was them.
Oh.
Keys.
Okay. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Let's see. The next question is, do you include ESP like telekinesis?
Oh, telekinesis is rough. No. I'm just going to go there and say no. We have not worked with telekinesis yet. We have on accident. We have accidentally done things with telekinesis. But that is not something that we're currently working with, cultivating. If you are able to manipulate matter with your mind in a 3 density environment, you are the most powerful thing ever. That's not easy. That's big boy stuff. So if that's something, I know that there's got to be somebody out there that works with that, but that's not
absolutely. And thank you, Ashley, for the reminder, because I meant to remind everybody it's coming up next Saturday. Yeah, next Saturday at noon, and EST, so Eastern Standard Time, is the Starseed connection. So yes, thank you for the reminder, Ashley. I myself leave with my vibration shoots through the roof every time I go.
One, but it was the best time ever.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So definitely, thank you so much. I really appreciate.
To the last one?
For the last one, I think 30.
It's getting bigger. Right?
Yeah. Well, less people reserved, but the same amount showed up. So it's kind of yeah. So Sammy, how do we sign up? Just go to my website at quantumlifetransformations.com, and under events, you'll see Starseed Connection, and it'll send you an email back with the link, with the Zoom link.
And it's free and it's fun.
Yes. So
you're doing the in-person meetup thing, right?
I did. I put it out for Friday, the 25th here in Orlando, Florida as well. I just did a video and put it on my website as well with all the details.
That's going to be so cool.
I know. I'm really looking forward to getting my fairy home done. And we're getting wands from the trees for healing.
What?
So, yeah. So I'm very, very excited.
It's like freezing rain outside and you guys are building fairy houses.
I know, it's 80 today out here, actually.
Why am I here? This is the worst. No, it's beautiful. Yeah. I like having the full seasons. Do you guys get fall? You get like fall, spring?
We don't get the leaves changing, but we do get a little bit of the cold. Good enough for this Puerto Rican. I don't do well in your weather. So
but I do love fall. Fall is like the most magical time.
Yeah. Me too. And here, especially here is like the days are like 75 and at night, 60 something. So it's very like, it's perfection. In the fall. And yeah. So it's beautiful. I love it. I'm
coming.
So what else? What other? Oh, today I have the Beyond Quantum Tarot at 7 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to keep talking about crystals and medicinal plants.
Okay.
So that is absolutely.
Psilocybin. I've never utilized ayahuasca, but I've guided people through ayahuasca. I love medicinal use of marijuana. I know it can go south. It can go south with people. Is it medicinal? Is it recreational? Where do you know where the line cross?
Yep.
They're so, I mean, these plants are gifts, and we're learning that they're not even earthly.
Yes.
Most have been dropped here, like seeded here. So
yeah.
And the crystal skull thing keeps popping up everywhere.
Did you see?
I didn't even know that was your show. I didn't even know you did a show about it.
You have to see that show. Listen,
everybody's been talking about crystal skulls. I've been like randomly shopping on Etsy for crystal skulls. It came up in somebody's tarot card reading. It came up in like conversation. One of my Mayan timekeeper, Jose, was talking about. And then I looked at your email and I was like, like, why does it keep coming up? Is the 13th one? Are they rising? Are they going to show up?
I think so. I think so.
There has to be a reason why it's on everybody's brain.
There has absolutely.
Like the Mitch Hedges one. We've been talking about that Mitch Hedges crystal skull. The one that lady has, the one with the jaw that moves, the Mayan one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it so happens that I start doing the show with Marie, who has a crystal skull, right? So she has Jasper, and we talked to Jasper, and he gave us so much information during that show. And it was just, that show was mind-blowing.
They're record keepers. And if they're waking up, that's it. Like that, I mean, there's no more secrets.
It's crazy.
They hold like the Akashic records of the earth. I have a rose quartz crystal skull, but it doesn't speak to me. It feels, I wish it would speak to me. It feels very lovely. I like hold it a lot, but
I think it has to be crystal, quartz.
Okay.
I think it has to be made of quartz.
Yeah, that, of course, I'm sure it does.
Yeah, clear quartz, because clear quartz holds information, knowledge, right? They're like data drives, like the drives that you put on your thing. You can put data in it,
and those are those little quartzes that are going through our brain and going through our blood, the crystals in our blood, and that's how we can receive and transmit information from our guides. That's like, we're literally walking quartz radios. I would totally, it makes sense that it should be
Crystal quartz. Yeah. If you're doing like a rose or any of those crystals, they're not meant for putting data in them,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're not like a USB. They're more
Right.
like just a pretty to look, to it's for it to emit its vibration of love, and that's it, right? It's not
Right.
for to put stuff in. Yeah.
Yeah. I was looking at a documentary the other day of the guy who figured out that DNA can hold you can download information onto. He had like a gram of DNA that he downloaded his ebook onto just to see if he could, and it ended up holding 8 million copies of his ebook, like that he just kept like downloading and seeing how much it could take. One like little drop of DNA on his finger held 8 million copies of his book. And then he wanted to see if not only could it be downloaded, could it upload it back to the server, could it transmit, and it did it. It like sent it all back. So like DNA can not only receive, it can like give information too.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
That's
That's
so
incredible.
this human body, I mean, we talk about it, we poo-poo it, but it's pretty cool.
We know nothing about
We
this
don't know how to
body.
use it. We don't know what it's for. We don't know, we like feed it and reproduce barely. And like, that's about it. But we don't know what we're doing.
No.
We're
Yeah.
just figuring it out.
We don't. We don't. So Katrina says the email keeps bouncing back undeliverable to her.
See? I'm going to figure
So,
it out. As soon as we're finished here, Katrina, I'll figure it out. It's probably
yeah.
because you have a profound impact to make on this collective.
Yeah.
Reason why you can't receive your activation. That's
Yeah.
usually
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Katrina, if you want, send me an email at quantumlifetransformations@gmail.com, and then I'll send it to Zoe from here, because I have a different email for Zoe, so I can send it to that email. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
That only makes me more determined when stuff like
Right? Right?
if you're sitting there and you're like, it's been 4 months and I haven't received anything, I don't want to bother her. Please tell me, because a lot of times it's just sitting in your spam folder, and it never bothers me because sometimes it's just that weird infiltration that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, guys, well, we love you. Thank you so much for being here with us, and let us know what you think we should talk about next.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Let us know what we should talk about next. And we went 12 minutes past, so I apologize, but thank you so much. We love you, and we hope to see you in the next one. Take care, everybody. Have a good
Bye, everybody.
weekend.
Love you guys.